This one is entitled, I Am Losing My Mind, How to Say Unusual Time in terms of not only how we work, but also how we just go about our daily lives. And so with that, we know that there are going to be times where you yourself, along with people on your team, are going to sort of move in and out of various stages of stress, simply given the fact that everything that we're doing, the way we interact or don't, is very much different from just a few short weeks ago. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we dive into the material. If you're not used to this particular format, there is a way for you to ask questions. And so if you go down to the bottom of your screen, usually there's a toolbar. Even if you don't see it, when you go down there with your cursor, it should pop up. You can ask questions, and then we will go through and answer those questions as they pop up. All right. There's also a way, if you ask a question, to be anonymous. You can click that little tab there and be anonymous when you ask the question as well. I also have a couple of polls today that I'm going to ask you guys to participate in as well, just kind of see where you all as participants land with some of these things. So let's go ahead and dive. So one of the things that we're going to look at is what's new in terms of what's going on. So, you know, just a short few weeks ago, if I were to ask you what was new, probably some of the things you might say is, well, I have a new project at work, or we're starting our kids' soccer season or something like that. Nowadays, when I ask what's new, the answer I get is pretty much everything. And I think that's really true for all of us. We are probably all of us in uncharted territory. And so what that means is that rather than there being some gradual changes to our world, we have these major changes that are happening, and they're happening quickly. And we see evidence of that simply by, when I get up in the morning, I've gotten into this habit of, I turn on the news. I want to see what's going on. And there is new information every single day. And I think that's really true for all of us. And so this is something that we have to be mindful for if we are leading a team of people, that every single day they are waking up, there's new information and there's new challenges. It could be challenges with technology. It could be personal challenges with health, or their own health, or their family members' health. And so this is something that we have to address. So for some of you that have been on, you may have experienced one of our assessments called the Change Style Indicator. And this assessment is a really short, quick assessment that you can take, where you literally go on and answer some questions, and it shows you on this spectrum how you deal with and adapt to changes. And so we look at this from the space of what we would consider incremental changes that are just gradual. And then we also look at it from these big sudden changes. And that's where we are today with COVID-19, is it has really changed everything in terms of how we work and how we engage with our teams. And those big abrupt changes, depending on where you fall on that spectrum, they mean something. There are some folks that are more of what we call the originators, and they're very comfortable with big change. They might be early adopters of big change, and they can kind of roll with the punches. They see things in more of a big picture way, and they embrace and hit that change head on. And then you've got other people on the other end of the spectrum that are called conservers. And big, abrupt, sudden changes like the one we're experiencing now can be a little more challenging. And so they might tend to be a little resistant or be obstinate, dig their heels in, ask a lot of questions, you'll see that reaction be very different from that other end of the spectrum, the originators. And then you've got a population of people that sort of fall in the middle. They'll call them pragmatists, and they kind of go either way. They tend to maybe in some things embrace it quickly, and other things they may not. And I say all this because you're going to, on your teams, have people that fall all along that spectrum. They are going to adapt or embrace change differently. And so as a leader, and even as a teammate, we have to know and understand this, because they may show up a little differently in the next coming weeks. Some may even choose to be a little more withdrawn. Others may be driving you crazy, asking you a million questions. But we have to, as managers, understand that this is, because it's so big and because it's so abrupt, our people are going to respond to their current environment in a different way than maybe they have in the past. And we have to understand that, okay? So what I want to do right now is I want to share a poll with you, and I want you to answer this, and then we'll take a look at it. So it should be coming up on your screen now. And you can go ahead and put your answer in, and then we'll take a look. Give you a few minutes to do that. Okay, so I'm hearing that the poll is not coming up. All right, let's see. Don't see anything, don't see the poll. Okay, you guys are really good at using chat. I love it. All right, I'm going to end it and then pull it back up and see. This is a new technology for me. So I'm going to relaunch it. And I think we're seeing it now. So as you're answering this, remember this is prior to COVID-19. Oh, and as a reminder, all of these the two polls are all anonymous, so no one's going to see your name. I'm going to give you guys about 30 more seconds, and then we'll look at the results. And some of you are saying you still can't see it. Seeing a few more vote. If you're in full screen, you may not see the vote, or may not see the poll. Thank you, Monica. So Monica says if they are in full screen view, they may not see the poll. So that might be something. And we're still getting more people, so maybe you've adjusted. Let's see. Heather says she's logged in through her browser instead of downloading Zoom, and maybe that could be why. So it may be, thank you, Heather. That might be another reason why. So I'm going to go ahead and end our polling. And if you can't see it, I apologize for that. And I'll try to figure out before our next webinar what's going on with that. Let's see. Okay. All right. So here we go. And I'm going to share our results. All right. And hopefully you guys can see the results here. So interesting. So the majority, 41%, said excessive workload was their single biggest cause of stress. And then coming in second was job security. And then, of course, money concerns. 17% posted other. So that's interesting. I know that's a big, wide open category there, but interesting that 41% is workload. So I'm hearing here, I can't see the results. Sorry about that, guys. Let me stop and I'm going to relaunch it again. One of the things that we are, share results. Okay, I'm going to try it again. We did get a notice from Zoom, again, technology issues that with our webinars, because there's so much going on via Zoom nowadays, that some of our stuff may lag in time. And so I may have to go out and come back in. So I really appreciate you guys chatting with me and giving me a heads up about what's going on. I see that you see it now, which is good. And I do apologize for that, but they have warned us that we may have some technical issues. And I think that we can see that that is absolutely true. So thank you guys for keeping me in the loop. So there are still a couple of people that say they can't see it. So again, I'm going to reemphasize this. So the number one was excessive pre-COVID-19. The number one stressor was excessive workload. Coming in second was other, meaning just other things. And then third was job security. And so those tended to be the big three, with excessive workload being the number one cause. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you another polling question. So again, if you don't see this, let me know. Okay, hang on. Here we go. All right. I'm going to take you guys to number 2, and I'm going to go ahead and launch this. I have now launched the second one. If you can't see it, please let me know. So one. Looks like we're getting more people that can see this now, which is good. You guys, just a few more seconds. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and end the polling now. And I'm clicking on share. So if you can't see it, let me know, but you should be able to see the results now. And what we see is very different. So we basically asked the same questions, and now it goes from excessive workload to the number one answer being job security. So more than half of the folks on this poll are worried about that. And I think that even though this is a very unscientific poll with a very small population of folks, I think what we're seeing here with job security being number one and health and illness being our second most biggest thing that we're worried about, I think that that pretty much would resonate across what we're seeing, not only in our country, but probably across the world. And so consider this, if this is more than half the people sitting here on this webinar are experiencing concerns and stress over, am I going to have a job? You know, will I be able to keep the job that I have? I can promise you that the people on your team are feeling exactly the same way. And so this is new and uncharted territory as leaders. We have to be open to and understand that the way we're going to manage our team is going to look a little different, at least in the short term, as we are dealing with how do we keep ourselves and our families healthy? How do we manage to keep our jobs, and what are our resources if that's not available to us? And so as leaders, these are the things that you're going to have to be aware of as you go through and manage your team. So thank you all for participating in that poll. I do appreciate that. All right, so with that, what we need to look at is, again, you know, common causes of stress that were prior to COVID-19, and it pretty much was exactly what you guys said in your poll. This is based on some research that we went out and looked for in terms of what are the most common causes in just everyday work stress. And some of the most common causes were not being able to make enough money, a lot of excessive work, struggling to advance in my current role. Maybe I'm bored on the job. Maybe I haven't been challenged enough and I'm not getting those opportunities. One interesting one is that lack of social support. And so what we define as that lack of social support, meaning I don't have a lot of friends or family that I feel I can count on when I'm in the middle of a crisis or when I'm stressed out. And of course, that not being able to have control over a lot of job related decisions that affect me personally, and then conflicting demands. So this was pre-COVID-19. This is kind of what we saw in terms of maybe just some of those more common causes. And of course, today, again, that number one, and we saw it even with the poll, is, am I going to be able to keep my job? The other thing that's interesting that it has been coming up is, you know, for some folks, they are already seeing excessive workloads, and it comes in a variety of different ways. A lot of you may be being pulled into meetings, a lot more meetings than maybe you normally would have, simply because part of your responsibility is working through the changes that we are dealing with today. Even I have a neighbor couple that we spoke with yesterday, and his office is still open, and out of the 18 people in the office, only 4 had access to laptops. And so they were having to deal with, how do we get laptops? And then they go on and like, well, this should be easy, we'll just order them. And then finding out that there's a lot of businesses where their people only had desktops. And so there's this huge demand on people buying laptops for their employees so that they have the ability to work from home. So then it's meeting on how do we do this and going on and researching. And so, you know, then other priorities are pushed off to other people on the team. So we're seeing a lot of people maybe do things that are not in their normal scope of what their role requires. And of course, another common concern is, am I going to get sick, or is someone in my family? And of course, many of you are dealing with some of the challenges that my husband and I are dealing with. We have grown children who live in other parts of the country. Our 2 children happen to live in 2 big hot pockets. One is in Seattle and one is in Denver. And so, of course, on the back of our mind is we are stressed about, are they staying safe? Are they able to, are they going to be able to have the health care that they need should they get this virus? So it's a big stressor for many people. We've also changed, if you have children, whether they're college age or in K through 12, they now have to come home and they've got to figure out how to work. So one of our challenges in our family is my husband and I each have a PC, but we have a child that also needs to be on and logging in, and he doesn't. And so we're having to figure out and sort of chunk up our time into sharing our computer with him so that he can get on and do his schoolwork. And then, of course, I don't remember anything past 4th grade math. So when he comes to me with a math issue, I'm sort of sitting there like, I don't even know how to do it. So we're having to figure out where do we go to and what are our resources. Some of you may be having platform issues, technology issues. And so, of course, this is a big stressor today. How do we get on and navigate these platforms? We even saw it with the challenges with our polling. We're seeing again, because of all the streaming that is happening and going on, that we're experiencing some challenges there as well. And then there are some people who just have never had to be as familiar. So you may find yourself even coaching your people or teaching your people how to do things that in your mind are very simple, but for them, they've never had to experience. And then, of course, there's the mental health issues as well. We have someone on our team who has already come to us and said, look, my anxiety and my depression is really kicking in right now. And so helping them sort of manage and get through that is something that is not in our normal roles as leaders of the organization, but it is something that we have to pay attention to and help our folks navigate that as well. So we're seeing some differences here in terms of what were common causes yesterday compared to what's going on today. Some are the same and some are very different. So what can you do in order to support your team? And so this really applies whether you are leading the team or you are simply a part of a team. And the first thing, and I think this is a big one, is be empathetic and be available. Again, we're in uncharted territory and things are happening so quickly, and the changes that we're all experiencing are so vast that we are going to respond to our current environment in different ways. And so there are going to be people on your team that are going to show up a little differently than they did just 30 days ago. And so we have to keep that in mind. And so what that means is, even though this may not be affecting you the way you're hearing it with them, we need to be able to put ourselves in their shoes and show that empathy and let them know that we're there for them. And that also means some challenges in terms of how can I be more available? I still need to manage the things in my daily life. Perfect example for me personally, I have a mother that lives alone. She has respiratory issues. She cannot get this virus. She will not survive it. And so now a part of my weekly routine is going out and making sure that she gets the groceries and the medicine and the things that she needs in order to not have to leave her house. And so that is changing my routine. And I'm sure that many, if not all of you, are experiencing that as well. And so as I'm adding in some of these new responsibilities, how am I still being able to be more available to the people on my team? And so for me personally, what that means is I am not going to necessarily be confined to the 8 to 5 working hours. If I have someone on my team reach out to me after 5 o'clock or before 8 a.m., I'm going to make myself available. I think it's important in this time and in this moment. Staying connected. I think most of us are doing a pretty good job with this. If we're not comfortable with some of our communication tools, there are great tutorials and online information where you can learn and figure out how to stay better connected. Also, we've got to exercise a little bit of patience as well, because as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of overload on these platforms now. And so we're seeing those challenges as well. But staying connected to your team is really important. Sticking to a routine. So I think this one is a big one. So the first week we were at home, I did not do very well with this because I am not typically good at routines. And what I was finding was not only was my productivity suffering, but it was also impacting me from an emotional standpoint as well. And so once I realized this and started getting back into that routine, and for us, even that routine is just get up, do your exercise, eat your breakfast, take your shower, put your work clothes on. Even something as simple as that really helps to sort of feel like I'm bringing back in some sort of normalcy to my current environment. The next one there, the impact of isolation and loneliness. For me, this was something that I felt was really important to include as well. For some of us, we're going to have people on our team who live alone, who do not have roommates, they're not married, they don't have kids living at home. And so they are even more isolated than those of us who have family members or roommates that we're living with. And so they're going to feel even more isolated because let's face it, as great as Facebook and FaceTime and Zoom and all of these platforms are, there's nothing like having some type of personal interaction. And so that's going to create an even greater impact on those folks. So if you know you have people on your team who are currently living alone or perhaps maybe having to be quarantined because they've been exposed to the virus, you may want to consider ways of reaching out more frequently with them. And not just via Zoom. Remember, we still have these things called phones, and we can pick up the phone and call. It's another way to interact as well. But it's important that we recognize that they're going to perhaps have some even tougher challenges than those of us who have people in our home that we can interact with personally. The other thing is, I wanted to bring this to your attention as well. You as leaders, make sure that you understand if you have an EAP, an employee assistance plan, and what your health plan looks like, because you may have to share that information with the folks on your team. There are lots of organizations that have EAPs where they may offer certain number of hours of counseling. And so for people on your team that are suffering from things like anxiety, depression, other mental health issues, this may be an opportunity for you to be able to remind them that they have tools and resources that are available to you or to them. And so make sure that you know what's in those plans so that then you can offer that as a resource to your team. The other one, sharpen your coaching skills. So there are some of you on that will say, I love to coach my team. I'm comfortable coaching my team. That's fantastic. Make sure you keep on keeping on because now more than ever, you're going to have to coach. For those of you who are managing teams who say, I do it, it's probably not my strength, I'm going to encourage you. There are tons of online resources where you can go and look up about how to better improve your coaching. But here's the other thing I want to offer. At the end of this, I'm going to give you my email address if you don't have it. We want you to check in with me. I'm going to offer free 20-minute sessions on how to effectively coach your team. And then finding innovative ways to promote team building. So this is another big one. Some of the things that we're doing, just because you're virtual and you're not face-to-face doesn't mean that you can't have some fun team building. So one of the things that we're doing is we're going to put together what we call Cooler Talk. And it's just a 15-minute, everybody get on, and we're just gonna not talk about work, but we're just gonna have a little fun. What's going on? What's your dog been doing lately? What's the craziest thing your kids ask you? That kind of a thing. And just do what we would normally do if we were all in the office together and stopping by someone's desk. Another thing that you can do is do some fun things. We want people to maintain their health. And so why don't you put a challenge together where there's maybe a prize at the end and people are logging on and logging in, hey, I walked 2 miles today, and let's encourage people to do some healthy things and maybe make it into a fun team challenge with your team. And with that, I would also encourage that you encourage your folks that about every 90 minutes, they do need to get up from their chair and go and maybe take a 10-minute walk, do chair yoga. You can Google it. There's a lot of great sites on just simple chair yoga that you can do. Just find those creative ways to continue to promote your team. All right. So with that, I want to, and I know we're a little over our time, but I want to share this because this is something else that we're doing to promote team building, is we're sharing cool little videos like this. So I want to make sure that you guys get a chance to see. And I tested this and it worked, and now it's not coming up. Give it a minute here. Might have a little bit of lag. All right. So even when I run a test, sometimes things don't happen. So this is, you guys can Google Kid President on YouTube. It's one of my favorite little sources for inspiration for our team building programs and when we get together with our teams. And he basically has these little 3.5-minute videos around just the power of positivity and how we all are in it together. This one is about us all being together. And so go on and insert some fun videos to share with your team, just to keep people motivated and to let your teams know that you are there for them, and that whatever they're dealing with, that they're not alone. And so with that, I want to thank you all for your team, for your participation, and thank you for your time. We're going to do these webinars on a regular basis. So if you have a topic that you would like for me to speak on, please reach out. And here is my information. That is, I changed that to my cell phone number so that you can reach me whenever you would like. And I will check in with you guys later. Thanks so much and have a great rest of your day.